RWBY Volume 7 ends where it begins. That is, if you consider the journey of our main cast of heroes. The volume starts with our heroes flying around Atlas, they don't trust Ironwood, and they're concerned about Mantle. The volume ends with our heroes flying around Atlas, they don't trust Ironwood, and they're concerned about Mantle. The differences that do exist aren't significant to this volume, but we'll get to that later. Ending where you began is not uncharted waters when it comes to storytelling. Usually you'll see this approach utilized for an episode of a show. For example, Star Wars The Clone Wars Season 7, Episode 7. The episode starts with Ahsoka, Trace, and Rafa in prison, and the episode ends with the three being thrown back in prison. Nothing they did over the course of the episode mattered. Now, some of you may be wondering, well, what the hell was even the point of the episode? The plot did not progress. Well, that was by design. The purpose of the episode was not to advance the overarching plot or the hero's journey. The purpose was to further develop the relationship between the three and learn more about the Martez sisters. We learn about what happened to their parents and why they hate the Jedi.
You didn't tell her, did you?
Tell me what?
About why Trace and I keep our distance from the Jedi. There was a populated landing platform right in the path of the ship, but the Jedi steered it clear of that, right into the portal wall.
Mom and Dad saw it coming. They got Rafa and I out. But they weren't so lucky.
See, what this approach allows the writer to do is focus completely on character, relationships, backstory, arcs, development. That's what's important here.
Sorry. I never should have taken this job.
We live and learn, Rafa.
Whether this was worth our time, we can talk about in another video. Now, let's jump back over to RWBY. Let's assume that the writers attempted to employ this approach, but instead of an episode, it's an entire volume. That would mean that there were characters that the writers really wanted to focus on, like Ironwood, for example.
Trying to hide the truth from the world will eventually kill us all.
Ironwood's character goes on a journey. You could argue his arc is the backbone of the volume. Ironwood starts Volume 7 worn out and stressed. The fall of Beacon really messed with the man. He felt useless, helpless. There was nothing he could do to stop it.
When Salem hit Beacon, being with all my ships, all of my soldiers, I was no match for her. I've never felt so helpless.
They hacked his scroll and they killed 5 men and women who worked under him. It was a complete disaster. Ironwood doesn't want the same thing to happen to Atlas, so defeating Salem is priority number 1.
I'm trying to prevent Atlas from becoming another beacon, another haven.
He puts into motion plans that aren't very popular.
I know how this all looks. Recalling my military, the embargo, I needed to ensure Salem couldn't infiltrate Atlas. And I wanted my military here, protecting my people.
His approval rating is falling, but he doesn't care because he feels he's doing the right thing.
But it's not protecting them. It's making everyone hate you.
It's a price I'm willing to pay.
See, Ironwood is selfless.
I'm not really worried about my public image.
All he wants to do is protect and serve. With Ozpin gone, he feels a responsibility to lead the fight against Salem.
Oz spent his whole life, many lives, keeping this secret.
But since Beacon, things have changed. Without him here to guide us, all I can do is use my best judgment.
You got to feel for Ironwood, man. The guy has been shouldering this all by himself, which is why he was thrilled to see some friendly faces in Chapter 2.
It is so good to see all of you.
He was especially happy to see Crow, a man from Ozpin's inner circle who is well aware of the fight in front of them.
I meant it when I said it was good to see you again.
You would think with the arrival of our heroes, Ironwood would be better off. I mean, if you can't trust the good guys, who can you trust? Well, it turns out you can't trust these dopes.
I certainly could use more trustworthy fighters by my side. I should be so lucky to have all of you.
Over the course of the volume, Team RWBY and the crew withhold information.
We're really not gonna tell Ironwood what happened to Oz?
Lie to his face.
We were in a train crash, and ever since, well, suddenly Oz wasn't there anymore.
Go behind his back.
How did Robin know about the Global Communications Project?
We told her.
And still have time to give him shit.
Well, if it wasn't for the embargo making everybody so mad, people probably wouldn't be so quick to blame you for everything else.
Now, does this man deserve this treatment? I mean, seriously. So what if you don't like his approach? Is that really a reason to lie to him? Ironwood is a good man.
You're a good person, James. You've always done what you think is best for the people.
He's empathetic, caring, and authentic.
Brand new, state-of-the-art Atlas tech. Before I could even talk to him, General Ironwood already had one of his top scientists working on this. For you.
The man gave Yang a new arm out of the kindness of his heart. Never even got a thank you card.
Our reception didn't really convey that.
He defended Weiss several times and told the students at the Fall of Beacon they were free to save themselves without any shame or guilt.
She's the only one making sense around here. You have two choices. Defend your kingdom and your school, or save yourselves. No one will fault you if you leave.
This is the guy they're shafting left and right. Ironwood, the man who now has to prove himself to RWBY? What?
I guess we will be seeing the General. For better or worse.
You're trusting others, but you're making sure they prove themselves first.
But you saw how things looked when we flew into Atlas.
The General's heart seems to be in the right place, but that doesn't mean we should trust him yet.
You know, with friends like these, who needs enemies? Well, Ironwood apparently, because he had to deal with crap from his enemies too. He's being framed by Salem's forces, Robin starts stealing goods that he needs for his plan, and Jock Schnee tries to diminish his influence.
My father's first act. We've all been invited to dinner, where the General will be defending his seat on the council.
The poor guy tries to keep his cool, but he's getting it from both sides.
If we just told everyone about Amity, about Salem!
We can't! If we talk about Amity now, we risk Salem's forces, who we know are here, working to sabotage it. If we tell them about Salem now, we risk falling to the Grim before we can reunite Remnant.
Imagine getting yelled at by some self-righteous chick who doesn't know what she's talking about. Ironwood's stress level increases over the course of the volume, and everyone plays a part. He finds out from Oscar at the worst possible time that his so-called friends have been lying to him for over a month.
Jin told you this.
She showed us when we asked what Oz was hiding. We're sorry we kept it from you too. We didn't know who to trust.
This is right after they lectured him about telling the truth. The man has been open and honest with them the entire time. It's truly remarkable. Ironwood doesn't have time to reconcile with this betrayal. He must head off to confront Watts. Here we get a great fight and the best character moment of the entire volume.
I wouldn't do that if I were you.
What? I will sacrifice whatever it takes to stop her.
The man's resolve is on full display for everyone to see. He's willing to sacrifice everything to take Salem down. He's not going to let anything or anyone stand in his way, which leads us to the conclusion of chapter 11. Cinder snuck into Ironwood's office and left him a little gift. The image of the Black Queen has tormented Ironwood since the fall of Beacon. By the time he saw that symbol, there was nothing he could do to stop what would be the loss of innocent lives and the collapse of global communications.
What if Mantle was just a distraction? How do we know that wasn't part of their plan? How do we know they didn't want us to bring people into Atlas by the thousands?
In his eyes, it appears Salem is once again about to make her move. Ironwood begins to wonder whether the attacks on Mantle were just a distraction. Was all of this a part of Salem's plan? It's a legitimate concern. What made matters worse is that Salem pops out of a bag to tell him she's on her way.
Time isn't on your side, James. It's always been on mine. Surrender the staff and the lamp to me, and they needn't suffer any further.
Ironwood realizes that Salem could arrive at any minute, so he comes up with a new plan.
We are going to take our plan for Amity Tower and apply it to the city of Atlas. If we harness the power of the staff and raise ourselves high into the atmosphere, the city's artificial climate will keep citizens and food supplies unharmed, always out of reach of whatever Salem may try to send our way.
Team RWBY aren't big fans of this plan because it doesn't involve saving everyone.
But we're nowhere near finished evacuating everyone. You'd be leaving Mantle to die.
Yes, I would.
See, Team RWBY is written to always make the righteous decision, even if chances of pulling it off are very slim.
Maybe a way to blow up the city. That'll keep it from impacting the surface if you guys can get clear. Impact radius is getting bigger every second. We're gonna have to make a choice.
Not till everyone's safe.
Everyone up here versus everyone down there, there's no math there.
I'm not leaving this rock with one civilian on it.
We tend to feel good about these type of characters in fiction because most of the time, they're right. They're not right because of logic or reason, oh no. They're right because they somehow end up defying the odds and saving the day. Here's the thing. The righteous man who will risk it all to do the right thing no matter what is super dangerous. In the real world, some risks aren't worth taking. Someone has to assess the situation and make a tough call, and sometimes, unfortunately, that means not saving everyone.
We're loyal to the people counting on us to save them.
We are saving who we can.
So yeah, Team RWBY is upset. Ironwood doesn't give a damn and he doesn't trust them. Why? Well, they're a bunch of big fat liars.
You said we could keep it.
Well, that was before you lied to me about the lamp. Before you lied to us about Robin. Before Salem was right on our doorstep.
Ironwood believes in loyalty. Team RWBY has proven to him that they can't be trusted. Ironwood calling Team RWBY out was easily the most satisfying moment of the entire volume. It was especially satisfying because Team RWBY's lying never made sense. So this was a big moment for the character, but Ironwood's arc wasn't truly complete until he shot Oscar.
It's General.
Now, I'm sure some of you thought this was horrible and was a clear sign that Ironwood had turned to the dark side, but it really wasn't that bad. Let me explain. In that moment, Ironwood saw Ospen, not a kid. Remember guys, he now knows the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. He knows that Ospen has been lying from the very beginning.
I've trusted him for years. We both have. I can't help but feel like he's keeping us in the dark.
He doesn't have a plan to beat Salem. In fact, he used to sleep with the woman. Remember how Crow reacted to the news? So yeah, Ironwood feels betrayed. It's not an excuse for what he did, but it's something to think about. We also have to consider the fact that Ironwood is not in the best state of mind. He basically lost an arm, Salem was just in his face saying she's on her way, and Ironwood thought that Ospen was trying to stop him from doing what needs to be done. He's trying to save as many people as he can before Salem arrives. He thinks Ospen will stand in the way of that, so he eliminated the threat. Ironwood rejecting the man he followed and respected for years was the final piece to his arc. He's sick of the lies, and he's sick of people not seeing the big picture. He now only trusts himself and his military. Look, I don't necessarily agree with everything Ironwood is doing, but the notion that he's gone off the deep end is comical. I'd love to see how some of you would react in his position, probably cry in the corner. The fate of the world is at stake. Someone must make the tough calls, and no one is providing a better solution.
You can label me whatever you'd like, but the fact of the matter is, I was right.
Ironwood doesn't think they have enough time to save everyone, and he was right. Salem was minutes away. So please miss me with the whole Ironwood is bad nonsense. He's the only one thinking. Even after wondering whether one can take down Salem and still keep their humanity, he hasn't lost his.
I'm sorry it's come to this. Winter, thank you. I know that must have been difficult. I'm so sorry.
This development is interesting. The character is dynamic. This is good. Wow. If the writers put this much effort into a side character, I can only imagine what Team RWBY got. What the?
We all have to carve out our own way.
Ew.
Keeping secrets? Taking lives? It makes you wonder how far we're going to have to go to keep doing the right thing.
Meh.
Sorry, just not used to the new hair yet.
Seriously? Is that it?
How could you think that was okay?
Yeah, you guys know how I feel about this. I've already made videos about it. I was less than impressed with Team RWBY in Volume 7. There were no character developments or character moments that were worth our time, and the volume lacked meaningful interactions between the four, which is inexcusable. The show is called RWBY for crying out loud.
You're Team RWBY.
You know us?
For those of you just now joining us, welcome to the final festival tournament.
You know us?
The world saw you attack an innocent student. They've already drawn their own conclusions.
You know us?
You White Schnee, right? The heiress.
I am. You know us?
But what about other characters like Nora? Well, the woman doesn't have an arc, but she does showcase great empathy and passion for the people of Mantle.
People of Mantle are hurting. She's right. You have to do something about Mantle. The longer this waiting game goes on, the harder each day gets for people down there.
For reasons unknown, the writers failed to explore this, so we're left to assume why. The fandom's headcanon is that Nora knows what it's like to struggle so she can relate. That's why she yells at Ironwood.
You can't force people to fall in line. If you do that, you'll just be trading all of these problems for the grin.
Unfortunately, because this wasn't fleshed out, it feels like a forced character moment. Maybe we should just be happy the writers gave her something to care about beyond Ren.
I like what you did with your outfit, Ren. I am so sick of secrets.
You would think that this line would lead to Nora and RWBY having a difficult conversation, considering she's the one making them all keep secrets. I guess Nora couldn't have that conversation. She was too busy dealing with Ren's nonsense.
We weren't ready to become huntsmen.
That's not true.
Now Salem has the lamp, Ironwood has the staff, and we have nothing!
Ren is having a hard time keeping his emotions in check, and he refuses to open up to Nora.
Why won't you just talk to me?
You know, I've never been really good with talking.
He instead decides to focus all his attention on helping the Atlas military.
We should probably stay focused on the mission. I take it you're here for new mission assignments.
Do I make myself clear?
Yes, sir.
He's also dismissive of Nora and behaves like a brat. Why? No one knows. Your guess is as good as mine. Maybe he finally came to the realization that he and the girl he loves signed up to die young. Perhaps he's afraid of losing Nora and he can't overcome that fear, so he's lashing out.
We should be training right now.
We've trained enough. Take some time to—
We don't have time.
That's just a guess. This random-ass character arc doesn't end this volume, so we'll have to wait to find out. I really don't care, honestly. Now how about John? I got nothing. Let's move on to Oscar. The farm boy is still not a character. Not that it matters at this point. His interactions with Ironwood make it clear that his soul is well on its way to merging with Ozpin.
Thank you, sir. General. Ironwood? I think the best thing you could do is sit down and talk with the people you're most afraid to.
Now you are starting to sound like him.
The city in the sky is held to a higher standard.
You say that like you were there.
And you're as dangerous as she is, James.
Yep, won't be long now. We can't forget about Maria, as much as we'd like to. Remember that video I did on her where I questioned why she stayed on the train? Well, in Volume 7, we found out why.
At the time, I thought they might need my guidance while fighting a little sphinx.
She thought they needed her guidance while fighting a sphinx. The problem is, she didn't interact with them until after they defeated the damn sphinx. Who do they think they're fooling? Why would she even care to help them?
But after I lost my eyes, I only ever looked after myself.
Crow Bronwyn. He had an interesting volume. He starts off by allowing his niece to call all the shots.
We'll follow your lead, RWBY.
I guess he got tired of getting yelled at.
But right now, I don't really care what you think.
Crow seems to approve of RWBY's decisions, like choosing to lie to Ironwood, which makes me think that Crow lost some brain cells along with his alcoholism.
Your mom, Summer, would be proud of you.
Crow's relationship with RWBY wasn't relevant to his arc this time around. What was pertinent was his newfound bond with Clover. Crow's semblance brings misfortune to everyone around him, and he can't turn it off, so he chooses to isolate himself so he doesn't hurt the people he loves. Clover is a person he felt he could spend time with because his semblance was good fortune. He doesn't have to worry about his semblance around Clover. Crow began to find happiness, and it looked to be the start of a beautiful friendship. Unfortunately, it doesn't last very long. Crow subconsciously wants to be miserable, so he helps Tyrion kill Clover. Crow was surprised when the killer killed his friend, which establishes him as one of the worst characters in the show.
I'll kill you! Oh, you mean like you just killed Clover?
James will take the fall. I'll make sure of it.
He places the blame at Ironwood's feet because somehow he forced him to break Clover's aura?
That doesn't make any sense. None of it makes sense.
You know what's funny? Crow doesn't want to fight on the plane, but after the plane crashes, he does for some reason. It's quite bizarre.
Cut it out, both of you. We're almost back to Atlas. Let's talk to James personally.
We don't have to fight, friend.
You don't know my friends. That's how it always goes.
I felt absolutely nothing for Crow here. I don't know how anyone could, considering the scene was a complete farce.
Is that normal?
Penny is back, and her smile and disposition hasn't changed one bit. It's almost as if nothing happened to her in Volume 3.
I'm as good as new. Better even.
This is strangely wholesome.
Sounds like Penny to me.
Everyone takes her return in stride, because the writers decided to retcon the emotional impact her death had.
Everyone was watching. Every house in every kingdom saw that poor girl ripped to pieces.
This all looks great, Penny. But where are we staying? Is that normal?
Penny gets framed in Chapter 6 and deals with no ramifications. Nothing happens to her as a result. She's sad for a couple chapters, sure, but by Chapter 10, everything is fine and dandy. So, what was the point?
Is that normal?
Penny becomes a maiden in the finale, but before that could happen, it had to be established that Penny plans on following her heart and doing what she feels is right, even if that means disobeying orders.
What are you doing? My life doesn't matter.
I disagree.
Which makes her a horrible military robot. So, Watts was right?
Much to my surprise, the Penny Project was chosen over all the other proposals.
You chose that fat imbecile over me!
I guess so.
I feel like I wish I could do both the things I need to do and the things I want to do.
I'm gonna ask a question the writers should have had RWBY ask. What exactly do you want to do, Penny? What do you want from life? Enough of Penny. Who's next? Winter? Well, she's a good sister and soldier. She's loyal to Ironwood and wants to do good in the world.
Ironwood's chosen you to be the next when she dies. Doesn't it bother you? He practically groomed your whole military career.
It did at first.
This volume pretty much confirms what I already thought. Nothing to see here. Tyrion is still just crazy. And I'm fine with that, honestly. Neo, everyone's favorite mute. She's barely a character and was brought back to pander to the base. She's taking orders from Cinder, the very person she blamed for Roman's death.
I don't have time for your misplaced blame, girl. I didn't kill your boss.
Neo needed to backstab Cinder for any of her actions in Volume 6 to make sense. Not only does that not happen, she hand delivers the relic to Cinder and was somehow surprised when she wasn't grateful. Yikes. Speaking of Cinder,
she's mine!
I was surprised by how much people enjoyed her this volume. The character is still awful. Somehow she's still overconfident. She refuses to develop. She shows up and fails again. She gets hit with the silver eyes again. They again refuse to give us her backstory.
No!
We still don't know why she wants power. We still don't know why she's in the show.
Still can't believe those idiots beat us here. Vacua was supposed to be the next target.
The woman was introduced in the Volume 1 end credit. We are now 7 volumes in. I know more about Watts than I do this wench.
A spitting image of you, this lad, Chuck. Creepily so, I might add.
Watts in Volume 7 was actually not bad.
He's definitely inherited your affect.
He had a great introduction to the volume, had signature moments, and we learned what led him down this dark path. Arthur Watts was a brilliant Atlas scientist with a massive ego. Arthur believes Ironwood never appreciated his genius. He resents him because he chose Pietro's proposal over his.
James Ironwood never recognized my genius.
After being disgraced by Ironwood, he started working for Salem. Why? Well, I think it's safe to assume he feels his genius is valued by her, and Arthur's actions are motivated by revenge. He wants to see Ironwood suffer, and he can do that while working for Salem. Arthur challenges Ironwood in a satisfying way and is an effective villain for the most part.
Oh, I hope you do, James. I hope you do.
Okay, let's keep it going. Papa Schnee. What was he up to this volume? Well, he wanted the council seat to gain more influence, struck a deal with Watts to get it, and attempted to knock Ironwood down a few notches.
General, if I may be blunt, you have spent what little trust this council had left in you.
He is ultimately taken down by his daughter. It was rather embarrassing.
Yeah. Weiss.
I think we're done with this character going forward. That's good news if you ask me. I'm skipping Willow and Whitley. They were only relevant to one chapter and they were only relevant to Weiss's story. Now what about new characters like Penny's creator, Pietro?
You can call me Pietro.
Well, Pietro is pretty much what I thought he would be. Brilliant mind, a scientist, an engineer, and an overall really nice guy.
Finest heart, too. This pharmacy is just where he volunteers.
He really cares about Penny, of course, and through Pietro we learn more about how she came to be.
Even if the worst does happen, you can always reactivate her again.
There's a reason why Penny is the only one of her kind.
You created an artificial aura.
Not quite.
You gave her part of yours?
Yes.
Pietro is giving his aura, his soul, to an artificial being. I have so many questions about this aura transfer nonsense. Penny is using his soul. Doesn't that mean they're one and the same? Aura is a manifestation
of the soul.
Wouldn't that make her another version of him? Are you guys sure you want to ship Penny and RWBY?
I cannot wait.
Guys, if I told you a man in the real world created a robot, took a part of his soul and put it in the robot and called it daughter, no one would say it was sweet. You'd be calling him batshit crazy and you'd be right. He's over here playing God with his soul. What the? Some folks believe that Pietro draining his life by transferring bits of his aura to Penny proves that Penny's return didn't hurt the stakes in the show. I mean, are you kidding? The only way this could raise the emotional stakes for you is if you somehow cared about this newly introduced character. I personally don't give a hoot, but even if I did, that doesn't negate the points I made in my Penny video, so please miss me with that. Okay, now let's talk about the rest of the new characters, like the Aesops. I mean like Robin. She's a headstrong huntress fighting for better conditions in Mantle. She's a walking lie detector who believes the law doesn't work for everyone.
The law isn't perfect, you know. It's certainly not equal.
Robin is compassionate, brazen, and last but not least, worthless. NANI? Robin is good for nothing. Where do I even begin? She's introduced in chapter 5, makes a big fuss about the hole in Mantle's outer wall.
We can't fix the wall without the supplies on these trucks. I think Mantle deserves to know what they're being used for.
Starts stealing supplies and doesn't fix the damn wall. She's supposed to win the election by a landslide, loses in a way that would garner suspicion, and doesn't question it at all. She recklessly runs her mouth about the communications tower, showing she can't be trusted.
We are trusting you, so trust us when we say that Amity Tower needs to stay a secret until it's done.
Why are you working so hard to hide the Amity Communications Tower from them?
You know?
She believes Penny attacked her election party. You would think Robin would see Penny as a threat going forward, an enemy that needs to be taken down, but no. 2 chapters later, she sits down with Penny at the dinner table like nothing happened. So, I'll ask again, what was the point? I wish I could stop here, but I can't. Robin felt insulted by Ironwood when she found out she wasn't under arrest. So she decided to attack Clover for some reason. On a small airship, high in the sky, in close proximity to Tyrion and the pilots. So, after helping capture Tyrion, her stupidity allows him to escape. Mantle's hero helps the person who's been killing people in Mantle escape. Guys, I understand why she's upset. She doesn't want Ironwood to abandon Mantle. I get it, but nothing about attacking Clover in this moment makes any sense. The only thing stopping me from calling her the worst character in the show is knowing what drives her. Robin's greatest contribution to the show is a meme. So, there you have it, folks. Over the course of the entire volume, the only compelling arc we got was Ironwood's. There's no significant character work beyond that. If character was the focus, you're gonna have to give me more than Ironwood's arc and whatever the hell they're doing with Ren.
Yes, sir.
Now, if I know this fandom as well as I think I do, some of you are already in the comments typing, "Hey Vexed, this diatribe of yours was based on the assumption that the writers were focusing on character this volume. We don't buy it." So what if it ended where it began for our heroes? A lot of shit happened this volume. Yeah, you're right. A lot of stuff did happen. The issue is, most of it did not matter. Let me be clear. Most of it did not matter when it comes to the overarching plot and the hero's journey. The events that did matter, mattered because it was relevant to Ironwood's character arc. You don't believe me? Okay, let's go through the major events of this volume. We'll call out everything that mattered and why. Oh boy, here we go. Our heroes are arrested. Why? So they can join up with Ironwood.
It is so good to see all of you.
Ironwood tells them his plan, and RWBY lies to him.
He told us the lamp can answer 3 questions, but all the questions were used up already.
We get the payoff within Ironwood's character arc.
You said we could keep it.
Well, that was before you lied to me about the lamp.
Our heroes help clear out the launch site for the Amity Communications Tower. Not only was the tower never finished, we never even see them working on the damn thing. The tower was merely a plot device used to give this volume some kind of direction.
We have to finish the tower.
Our heroes get their huntsman licenses.
You are being granted your huntsman licenses. Today.
After everything we've been through, I almost forgot this is what I wanted in the first place.
It almost feels trivial now.
Oh, it's trivial, alright. Getting their huntsman licenses changes nothing for them. They've been operating like pros since they left Beacon.
We truly can't thank you enough.
Just doing our job, sir.
They don't give them access to anything important or substantial. It's damn near meaningless. Training, yes, our heroes trained. That mattered, right? It increased their strength and skills considerably, which will obviously be beneficial going forward. The people of Mantle riot, and it was resolved off-screen. There's a massive Grim attack, and it ends off-screen. The Mantle Massacre, where Penny was framed. If you forced me to come up with a reason why this mattered, I would have to say that it affected Ironwood's character arc. The massacre informed him that Tyrion was on the loose, and it led to Robin stealing supplies. This caused him stress and made him consider declaring martial law.
What's more important? Establishing communication to unite the world, or appeasing a few city blocks?
Next, Blake and Yang ambush Robin. Why? So they can tell her about Ironwood's plan.
Amity Coliseum, all these supplies, they're for a new communications tower.
Why did that end up being important? You guessed it.
How did Robin know about the Global Communications Project?
We told her. The night of the ambush.
The writers wanted Robin's semblance to be a surprise in this scene.
You're telling the truth.
Handy's semblance.
So they decided to make Blake, Yang, and the Atlas military stupid. You accepted a mission to ambush a huntress, and you didn't ask what her semblance was? They sent them on a mission to ambush a huntress, and they didn't tell them what her semblance was? The plot-induced stupidity is outrageous. Papa Schnee decides to host a dinner for the council. Why? To mess with Ironwood.
Let's talk about exactly what it is you control.
He gets taken down in no time. I doubt his arrest will change anything about the Schnee Dust Company. Someone has to keep making dust bullets, right?
Locked and loaded. Thank you, Schnee Dust Company.
Weiss is not the heiress, so she's not affected by this. The only character who benefits is Ironwood.
Lately, you seem to forget who your friends really are. I'm going to get that council seat, James.
Watts turns off the heating grid, and the people go crazy. Again, which leads to another Grim attack.
General, the Grim are all over Mantle.
This is what I was afraid would happen.
This forces Ironwood to change course after a pep talk from Oscar and RWBY.
The secrets you're keeping, they're about to be in the open anyway. Tell the truth.
You're not alone. We can do this together.
Thank you.
They defeat and capture Tyrion, and then he escapes.
Looks like our score will have to wait. You know my track record with the authorities.
Honestly, it doesn't matter if they stop him or not, because...
We stopped Tyrion too.
Dear girl, their goal was never
victory.
Ironwood defeats Watts and throws him in jail. But guess what?
Their goal was never victory.
Clover dies. Why? Well, the purpose was to give Crow a reason to completely turn on Ironwood. This moment will have an effect on him going forward, you would think. I didn't care when Clover died because he's a new character that I wasn't invested in. Everything involving his death was weak. He won't be missed. Okay, now let's call out everything that happened in the finale. Cinder fails again, but her assault leads to Penny becoming a maiden. Ozpin comes back to save Oscar, Neo makes off with the Relic of Knowledge, and Salem arrives on a whale. Okay, now take a look, guys. Some of these are not significant to this volume. Some of them are just pure Volume 8 setup, right? Salem's arrival might as well be the end credit scene. It's the last shot of the volume. Penny becomes a maiden at the end so she can be a MacGuffin in Volume 8. If Salem or Ironwood want the Staff of Creation, they'll have to track her down and make her open the vault. Ozpin returns in the finale to set him up to be an active player now that Salem is here. Here it is, ladies and gentlemen. Here it is. Here are the events that mattered this volume that exist outside of Ironwood's character arc. Training, Clover's death, and Neo taking the relic. That's it. If you've ever asked yourself, why can't I remember what happened in Volume 7? This is why. The volume is filled with events that were worthless. No one is doing anything that is worthwhile. Neo was the only person who accomplished something, and that wasn't even handled well. In fact, none of these were handled well. The Aesops trained Team RWBY for like a month, and now they're on the same level as Elite Huntsmen?
We're the best huntsmen in Atlas.
You were. Then you trained us.
Meanwhile, John, Nora, and Ren had the same training, and they can't touch Neo, but Oscar can? What? Why is Neo even disguised as Oscar? She can make herself look like anyone, turn into a rando, and just walk out. Why is she being stupid? Oh yeah, that's right, for the plot. If Neo was smart, Team Juniper would have nothing to do. You know what's funny? Salem's arrival alone makes most of our heroes' efforts irrelevant. They didn't have enough time to construct the tower, and fixing the wall is not going to protect Mantle from Salem. Guys, they're worried about an election? An evil witch is flying toward them on a whale.
None of this matters right now.
Yeah, you're right, Weiss. None of this matters. They're oblivious to the real threat. That's why this volume feels so empty in the end. A lot of stuff happened, but ultimately it did not matter. The only way you can justify it is if you claim they were focusing on character, which brings me back to my original point. Now, do I believe this is what the writers were going for? No, I don't. If this was the case, Team RWBY wouldn't have gotten shafted, and Ironwood wouldn't be the only one with a compelling arc that runs the length of the volume, I would hope. So, the question is, what were they going for and why? I have no idea. You know what I think would have been better? Instead of having the characters stress over an election, tower construction, or a hole in the wall, what if in Chapter 2, they got word that a major threat was coming? Long distance radar, long range patrol, whatever, something alerts them to a massive grim cloud that is slowly heading their way. We know it's Salem, but they wouldn't know. Let that be what drives the conflict and the stress. The questions now would be, what do they do? How do they prepare? Do they fly out there to check it out? Do they discover it's Salem? Do they go on the attack? Do they get pushed back from the council? Do they weaponize the Winter Maiden? Do they run? There's so many ways you could go, and everything would be relevant to the overarching plot. It makes too much sense. Volume 7 runs the risk of being forgotten by the casual RWBY fan. In fact, I would argue if Ironwood doesn't play a major role going forward, it will be forgotten. Volume 7 is clearly his volume, and his arc is the biggest takeaway. I doubt the core base could forget this volume though. For most of them, this is a volume where Ironwood turned bad, Penny returned, and we got the RWBY v Aesops fight.
And the Oscars goes to, I swear to God, I'm like on the edge of my seat. Wow, really? Oh my goodness, Team RWBY versus the Aesops.
Because the fight with the Aesops was one that was very divisive. Some people being like, oh, there's no way Team RWBY should have won. Like, this is ridiculous. And other people being like, well, the Aesops weren't in the right headspace. And we never want it to feel like anybody won due to that good old phrase, plot armor. So, you know, we always try to make sure that there's like good reasoning. And like, if, you know, someone does have a reason like, oh, this person's probably going to go down first.
Oh, okay, so they believe the Aesops weren't in the right headspace. That's why they lost. Interesting. So apparently, this was Ruby Rose, minutes before the fight, in the right headspace. Folks out here just bending over backwards to make this shit work in their heads. Guys, the headspace explanation works when you have fighters who are close to even. It doesn't make up for years of experience in honing your skills. Stop with the bullshit. If the Aesops trained them, wouldn't they know all of their strengths and weaknesses? So how could they... Okay, I'm done. RWBY Volume 7, man oh man. Thanks for taking the time to watch this, guys. I want to hear from you. What were your thoughts? Why did you love this volume? Why did you hate this volume? Do you even remember what happened before Chapter 11? Let me know in the comments. Hit the like button, hit subscribe, and follow me on Twitter, why don't you? Yeah, that sounds awesome.